Hi, this is Joey Hurtado from Group A. This is part 4 of the Yucca Mountain presentations. My part of the research paper was specifically to talk about the geographical, economic, cultural, and political aspects of opening the facility. Today in this presentation I will be talking about how politics have affected Yucca Mountain. As you know, Yucca Mountain, the facility, was the United States' answer to the growing inventory of spent reactor fuel rods that have been produced by over the years by over 104 operational reactors. As of right now, there's 70,000 tons of spent fuel in near major cities and highly populated areas. The idea was to remove all of that and place it in a very remote location, which is why Nevada was picked. In 1982, Congress passed the Nuclear Waste Policy Act under Ronald Reagan, which stated that we needed to find a disposal of the highly radioactive spent fuel. The Department of Energy had had their eye on Yucca Mountain itself since about 1978, which was about 4 years before. There was a recommendation written by the National Academy of Sciences in 1957 saying that the best way to dispose of the nuclear waste was to bury it deep underground under the rocks. So again, in Yucca Mountain itself, that area is all government owned. There's thousands of acres that is government owned, and as a matter of fact it was used for nuclear bomb testing. Disposal of the highly radioactive waste is extremely complex, and there were a number of dangers to consider when dealing with such harmful material. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the Department of Energy were placed at the forefront to lead this team to investigate the possibilities of the different sites and different locations. It was narrowed down by 1985 to 3 states, which were Washington State, Texas, and Nevada. So by 1986, the Department of Energy concluded that Yucca Mountain was the superior location. After extensive studies, this was the most remote, arid, and isolated from any sort of drinking water or population that they could find. It's under 1,000 feet of rock and also 1,000 feet above the closest water table from beneath. And most of the mountain itself is a product of volcanic activity. It's volcanic rock. It wasn't until 1987 that the final decision was made. There was a closed-door congressional hearing in which there was representation from both Washington and Texas when deciding the location of the repository. As it turns out, Nevada did not have representation there, and rookie first-year Senator Harry Reid took this as a personal insult. Shortly after this, one of the first things that Harry Reid, one of his first actions, he created a county called Bullfrog County, and it is 144 square miles, which encompasses Yucca Mountain itself. This was intended only to slow down the building by zoning it for residency, which would create tighter restrictions. Yucca Mountain is still on government-owned land, technically, but by creating this county around it, it slowed things down. First phase of exhaustive research was completed in 2001, and it indicated that Yucca Mountain, it met the specific comprehensive scientific, engineering, environmental criteria that was set forth by the Department of Energy. And after more than 60 public hearings in Nevada, the Energy Secretary, Mr. Abrams, certified that in February 2002 that Yucca Mountain meets the site selection requirements. President Bush concurred with the decision and forwarded the recommendation to Congress for final decision. And Congress approved the site in July of 2002. Also in the same year, in 2002, President Bush signed the House Joint Resolution '87, which allowed the Department of Energy to start construction on the repository. In 2006, the Department of Energy chose March 2017 as the opening day for Yucca Mountain Repository. And on that day, the 39 states across the country would send their spent fuel and radioactive waste from the over 126 nuclear sites from around the country. But of course, politics has a way of changing things. Reed, of course, the longtime opponent of Yucca Mountain facility, he became the Senate Majority Leader after the Democrats took control of the Senate. And since that time, he's been able to slow down and block the project completely. Support for the Yucca Mountain facility from Washington has changed with the change of the administration. The recent Republican administrations, both George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr., were both in favor of the Yucca Mountain facility, and it seems as though the facility was on a fast track for opening. It was a very popular idea during those times. Bill Clinton's administration in 2000, Harry Reid was able to lobby to veto a bill that would have gotten Yucca Mountain approved. In more recent years, Senator Reid has been able to freeze project budgets and legislation to approve the Yucca Mountain facility. And finally, with Reid's embrace of presidential candidate Barack Obama in 2008, and he promised to halt the Yucca Mountain project, which he shortly did after he was first elected. Mr. Reid also elected a chairman to the NRC, who was an understudy of Senator Reid at one time. He was in 2004. Gregory Jaczko was placed as the chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission with the intention of shutting down Yucca Mountain, that was slated for Mr. Reid's home state in Nevada. Jaczko was successful, but in a manner that labeled himself as a dictator and lost the support of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. He resigned in May of 2011 under pressure from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and Harry Reid was not very happy. But the damage was already done as far as Yucca Mountain was concerned. But swaying political figures was not his only weapon in his arsenal to shut it down. He also spread propaganda throughout the general population and the residents of the state of Nevada. In the late 80s, we were just coming out of the Cold War with Russia, and he fed off of that and people's lack of knowledge or understanding of nuclear waste and radiation. He fed off of that fear and brought many people onto his side to oppose the facility itself. He was also successful in convincing some of the surrounding Native American tribes that this was an evil against their land, specifically the Western Shoshone and the Southern Paiute occupied the southern tip of Nevada and also the upper portion of Utah. And all of this, the surrounding area was seen as sacred hunting grounds and ceremonial grounds, burial grounds for these Native Americans. And of course that hits a soft spot with the United States. So that was another way that Mr. Reid was able to sway the decision. Yucca Mountain went from a very strong candidate. It was the only place to being shut down. And it seems as though he was outnumbered as well. There were more people that were for this long-term storage than there were against it. In conclusion, I'd like to say that politics is a very powerful force, and there is no scientific reason why Yucca Mountain should not be used and utilized for its purposes of long-term storage. That wraps up Group A's presentations about Yucca Mountain. I hope you find it as interesting and informative as I have, and thanks for watching.